Hello, Java students. We're going to introduce methods today. We've already been writing code in the main method, but in this video, we're going to show you how to create your own custom methods. And when you define a method, you need to know some of the terminology associated with the method. And here you can see a pretty good graphic on page 207 in our textbook showing you the parts of a method. First of all, you've got the method header line, which consists of two modifiers, public and static, a return type. In this case, this method is going to return an int. Then you have a method signature, which consists of the method name and then parentheses, possibly with parameters inside. And if there's more than one parameter, they're separated by commas. And then we have the method body inside the curly braces. Now this particular method is going to return an int. The return type is int. And so you'll see down below that it has a return statement. It's going to return result, which is in fact an int. Eclipse will help you with that. So that's one good thing about working with Eclipse. It'll help you. It'll make sure that you return an int if you define a method that is supposed to return an int. Now, how would you use that method in code? Something like this, where x and y were integer values that had been declared previously. You just call it by name. You use the name of the method, which is max, give it the two ints to work with. X and y are int types. And because it returns an int, we have to catch the value that it returns in another int, in this case, int z. So those are the parts of a method. Now we have an example in Eclipse to show you. Take a look at this class here. We have a class called methods. And if you look inside this class, we'll see that we have three different methods. The opening brace is here. And as you can see, here's the closing brace that matches that one. And here's our main method. But below it, we have two more methods. These are custom methods. Let's take a look at these. Let's focus on these, if you will. The first one is a value returning method, a method that returns a value. Well, it's public and static. Now, the static is actually a requirement. Because main itself is static and has to be in Java, we have to make our custom methods also static because in order to run inside main, which is static, the methods that we use down here also have to be static. Now, this particular method is going to return a double. The name of this method is add doubles, and it's going to take two parameters. That's the terminology that's used for when you define the method. Two parameters of type double called num1 and num2. Well, what it's going to do is just going to add those two together and assign that to another double called total, which we are going to return. And because this is returning a double, this looks pretty good. Now, if I were to comment this line, which I will just quickly do here, you'll see that Eclipse will immediately complain. And if I hover over this, it'll tell me this method must return a result of type double. So it just reminds me that I have to return a double. So we'll fix it up again. And now take a look at the next method, if you would. This one is a void method. Not all methods return a value. In this particular case, we have a void method. It also has to be public and static. Notice the return type is void. It does not return a value. The name of this method is printsum. It also takes two doubles as its parameters. And what we're going to do here is we're actually going to start off by doing the very same thing as we did on line 21 above. We're going to add the two doubles and assign that to another double called total. And then instead of returning something, we're going to print out that result. So that's often what a void method does. It doesn't necessarily always have to print something, but it's not going to return anything. It's a type void method. Now, how do we use these in main? Let's concentrate on main now for a moment. We start off by declaring two doubles, n1 and n2, with values of 10 and 25. And now we're going to execute or call. That's a term that's used as well as invoke. To execute the method, you call the method. So we're going to use n1 and n2 as arguments. When we actually use or call the function in the method in main, we're going to let n1 and n2 be our arguments. Here's where we're calling the method. And because it returns a value, we're going to catch that return value in a variable called sum, which we can then print out with the system out print line. We can use a value returning method in another way. We can use it as the argument for another method. And we've done that right here. Look, here's the same method call. We're calling add doubles here with n1 and n2 as arguments again, but we've embedded it inside the print line. Because this returns a double, essentially what this does is it does all of this code down here, returns a double, so we're actually going to see a double number appear in this line here. Now, the void method is much easier to invoke or call. We just call it by its name and give it the two arguments. We don't have to catch any return value like we do with the value returning method. So we'll give this a run, and no surprise on what the math is here. Of course, it's going to be 10 plus 25 equals 35. We get the same two same lines from our first executions here, right? There's the output. That's the first output there, and here's the second output here. And then finally, here's the output of the void function is the last line. Okay, so that's a little bit about how you use custom methods in Java. And that's when you truly become a Java programmer, when you can create your own custom methods and execute them inside the main method. Hope that helps. Enjoy Java.